I wanted to start with a joke, but I don't have one.
Why did the triathlete refuse to eat pie before the race? Because they didn't want to crust their training.
Crust their training?
I would have said because they didn't want to shit their pants. Welcome to the first episodes of Tries and Pies. I'm Amy.
I'm Kim.
And we're here to talk to you all about triathlons.
And pies.
And pies. Good pies. Yummy pies.
Delicious pies.
And we are going to be talking today about sweet beginnings. Starting your first triathlon. How did you decide to do a triathlon, Kim?
I got injured, actually, trying to qualify for Boston. My wonderful husband, who I've been married to for 25 years, said, because I was complaining and whining that I wasn't doing anything and how terrible it was because, you know, we can't just sit and relax as endurance athletes. We have to be doing something. He said, why don't you try a triathlon? And I said, well, shit, didn't think about that. So how did you get started?
My friend called me and said, Amy, you like swimming and you know how to ride a bike. You hate running, but it's not that far. Do you want to do this triathlon with me? I was like, sure.
We started at the same exact time then.
We did because
that's how we met.
That's how we met.
Try to finish.
Yeah.
Shout out to Andy.
Yeah, thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Andy. Still friends.
Still need to make those pink shirts.
Pink shirts.
Pink! I did a 5K, and I had never done a 5K in my life, and signed up to do the Irish jig, and made my sister sign up with me, and I stopped training halfway through because I couldn't even run to the end of the block.
Yeah, you do
like
not
my
like running.
sister was, she's like, nope, you're gonna do this. I paid for it. You're gonna do it. So we went to the race, and I remember being done with the 5K, and literally feeling like I was dying.
I bet. I look at you now.
It took me like almost an hour to do a 5K, which
okay.
Totally okay. I did it. I was very proud of the medal. We went out to lunch after, and then I went home and slept for like 4 hours.
Oh, jeez.
Because it was like, oh my gosh, I'm dead. This
died.
was so hard. And then
5K.
The next day, I told my sister, I said, I'm signing up for a half marathon.
You went right into that.
Yeah, and my dad was like, you what? Segment 1. How do you know if triathlons are right for you?
I don't know if you really know until you try one.
Was that a dad joke?
No, but I mean, I don't know. I think you just have to decide, like, if this is something that you want to do. So I'm a firm believer in that anybody can do whatever they want, but they have to want to do it. Because if you don't want to do it, you're just not going to do it.
Yeah, I think there's a part, if you don't want to do it, then you're not going to train, and then ultimately you're probably not going to finish.
Or you're just not going to enjoy it. You're not going to like it. You're not going to give it the full attention that it needs. So I don't know that you really can know if it's right. I guess if you're athletic, well, you don't even have to be athletic though. No. I mean, you can just be some person.
So you swim, bike, I almost forgot the order of a triathlon. Swim, bike, and run.
Yes. Which one's your favorite?
Swimming.
That's a silly question.
Swimming. I wish that you had to swim as far as you run, and you run as far as you swim.
Like backwards.
In a triathlon. I would rather swim 5K and run the whatever.
2.4 or whatever. Yeah.
200
full
yards. Yeah.
You really hate running.
I do. I don't like
Yet
running.
you still do triathlons, so that's what's pretty cool about it too, is you don't have to love it all the time.
Right.
Although you legitimately have hated running since the day I met
It
you.
makes me cry.
Yeah, I've witnessed it.
To your point of if you train, you can do anything.
Right.
I know when I train for a triathlon, a huge focus of what I'm training is the running portion. The other ones, I don't like sit back and not do anything because I can get a good lead if I have a strong swim. But for the most part, when I was training for my Ironman, it was, nope, you're going to swim twice a week and you are going to be running 3 to 4 times a week.
Yeah.
So I think it's a lot of balance too between the 3 disciplines of knowing where you have to put that
Put the
extra
energy
emphasize. And if you've never done any of those three, I fully believe you can learn how to do all three to the point of finishing a race.
My first triathlon was an Olympic at Holly, which I believe might have been the time that I met
The
you.
hills.
The hills.
The hills are alive.
With the sound of music. I was fully prepared and did do that entire Olympic swim, the breaststroke, because I didn't know how to freestyle.
Really?
My very first triathlon, I didn't know, and I was the last person out of the water, maybe the second last, I can't remember. But then I do believe I wound up coming back and coming in second place. So it's like, it's what you make of the race, end of story, and what you want to get out of it. And I feel like a lot of people focus way too much on the what ifs, or what is that person going to think? And oh my God, people are going to think I'm slow. And
Or
it's
they
just
say,
them.
I can't run,
Right.
I can't swim. Oh, I'd never be able to do that.
Right.
Oh, I have a mountain bike. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
The first 3 triathlons I did using my mountain bike that used to have speakers duct taped to them.
Did you have a bell?
No.
That would have been funny if you had a bell.
But my speaker's hooked up to a CD player,
Oh
if
my
you know what that is. That's what I did a couple of my races on before I invested in anything, which I think was one of the best pieces of advice someone gave me. Don't start spending money on all of this equipment and gear, because one, sometimes it won't make you faster.
Right. Well, you gotta
But
train.
2, also make sure that you do have fun, or at least a part of you has fun doing
Yeah,
this,
enjoy it.
because it's a lot to invest, not just money but time. So the first race, or trying to figure out if a triathlon's right for you, I think you just need to go do it if you're considering doing it.
We'll get to the distance
Oh, yeah.
part in our next segment, but because it's funny how you choose a distance, and we'll talk about that
Yeah,
after we eat some pie.
especially when you're thinking, oh, 5K, I'm dead.
Right. So you go from a 5K to a half marathon, and
Which
is
if
a
you're
big
not
jump.
familiar, is 3 miles to 13 miles. So
13.1.
13.1.
Don't forget the one.
And
That
Three-
0.1 is the worst.
yeah, 3.1.
Yeah, 3.1 to 13.1. So that's a big jump.
And that's a half marathon. And then there's
Half.
a full marathon.
You made it
There's a
sound
difference.
5K. All right, I think we're gonna eat some pie. You want to try? You ready?
Yes. We need to eat some pie.
We need to eat some pie.
So today we're going to eat 2 pies. And
Not the whole pie.
So where do we get pies from today?
My pie comes from, I don't know how to pronounce it, and Eric, my husband, knows, and it's Atkins pie from Pie Collection. It's a little Pie Elective. Pie
Collective.
Do you need
Pie.
to do this
It's
again?
Pie Collective. Why are we starting with an apple pie? I think it's
Because it starts with an A.
interesting.
I don't
Okay.
know.
I was just thinking because it's so wholesome. Like everybody, who doesn't love apple pie? Anyway.
Mine is from a bakery called Nantucket
Ooh, great name.
Bakery. They've got 2 locations in Grand Rapids,
2. Oh.
and everything is really, really good.
Your pie weighs like 10 pounds.
So, let me tell you a little story. I used to go run every Saturday with a group before I had my son. I mean, Noble sometimes will come run with me, but right now it's really cold. So, after I got done running, because I was always by Nantucket or happened to be on the way home, I'd stop and get a bunch of stuff from Nantucket.
All right. And we're going to eat pies in between each segment, and then we're going to figure out which one we like the best. And if we can't decide, then, I don't know, we'll fight each other.
And just keep eating them. Why are we fighting each
I
other?
don't know. I'm ready for some pie. You ready for some pie?
Ooh, yes.
Our first pie.
It's like stuff.
Oh my god. Ooh, there's oats in there. Oh, we each get our own. So, presentation-wise, this one looks pretty good.
Okay, so why are we eating pies? on a
Because
triathlon podcast.
Well-
Just because it sounds right.
try some pies just sounds fun. But no, I think that a lot of people need to realize that you burn a lot of calories when you're training and racing. And you should treat yourself to some pie. And who doesn't want an apple pie? I think overall, the height is a little bit wimpy, maybe?
I mean, there's a lot of crumbles on the top,
There's a lot of
so
crumble.
I feel like it's trying to make up for something.
It does, but it was very heavy. All right, are you ready? Oh, she's going in already. Oh. That's a
Okay.
good pie. Okay, all right, hold on.
That's good.
The crust on the bottom is nice and thick, which that makes me happy because I'm a crust person.
So the question, well, it doesn't taste that, like, it's not overly rich. You know how sometimes you eat a pie
No.
and there's just like
It's like
way
super
too much
clean.
sugar.
It's not super sweet.
Mm-mm.
Really impressed with the crust. The apples are baked deliciously.
Yeah.
Like, they still have some crunch to them. Some
I was gonna
bite.
say they're not like soggy apples.
Yeah. The stuff on top, again, it's not super sweet. You would think that with all this crumble up on top that it would be super sweet. I like the addition of the oats. They're like toasted. So yeah. I'd give it probably a 7.5 out of 10.
I don't know where I'm at. I feel like maybe a 6. I don't want to say there's not like a bam of apple flavor.
Yeah, that's a
feel
good point.
It like tastes more like cinnamon applesauce.
That's very valid. I agree with that. We're moving on to segment 2 now. We're going to talk about how to pick a distance. So, how did you pick your distance?
Well, let me tell you a little story here on distances in races in general and why you really need to pay attention to what you're signing up for. So back in the day, I signed up for Warrior Dash, which kind of like Spartan races,
Yeah.
but there was no penalty. Basically, if you skipped an obstacle, it was like whatever.
Yeah.
So I had signed up for Warrior Dash one year, and my coach or trainer, Christian, which I will call him out because he knows this is his fault. So he also, from the UK, kilometers and miles aren't the same thing.
People.
So he said, hey, you signed up for Warrior Dash, which 5K. He said, there's this thing called Iron Warrior Dash. You just tell them you want to change the distance. Let's do it. And I was like, well, how far is it? He said it's 15K. I'm thinking, all right. It's like around 10 miles then maybe.
Yeah.
Can handle that. So I get to the race morning, and there's like this waiver, huge, like massive waiver, like 3 pages. And I'm like, what the heck am I, like normally you sign like the one waiver because you jump over fire.
Right.
But I'm like,
And
what
like
is going on?
electrocuted too, right?
Yeah, something like that. And my mom had dropped me off, and she's looking around, she's like, Amy, there are no like women here. What did you sign up for? I'm like, I don't know. Christian told me to up it. So I'm signing this, and we get to the starting line, and everyone's going, yep, you ready for this? And I'm like, yeah.
Were you doing it with Christian?
Yeah,
Okay.
with Christian, because it was his idea. Come to find out, it is not a 15K. It's 15 miles.
Oh no.
And it was not 10 obstacles. It was like 25 obstacles. There were no porta potties for women. Yeah, the guys could run in the woods. There was nowhere for me
Oh, to squat.
to squat, to pee.
Yeah.
I was not ready at all for a 15-mile race. So, lesson learned, kilometers
Very different.
does not equal miles, which is very important when you're picking a race distance.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, in the triathlon world, there's
super sprint,
Super sprint.
a sprint, an Olympic, a half, and then a full. Yeah.
And it ranges everywhere from super sprint is maybe like 5 miles or less altogether.
Altogether, yeah. Yeah.
To the full, which is 144.
144.6 if you do Chattanooga.
That's why.
140.6 for just the non-Chattanooga
Well,
races.
Chattanooga isn't long anymore.
Yeah,
Now
they've
you
been
bike on the highway.
switching stuff up for a lot of the
I did it
Ironman.
when it was 144.
And your first one.
And only one.
Well, you say that now. But no,
It's
there's-
my only one.
It's her only one for sure.
Distance matters.
Distance definitely matters.
So how do you go about deciding?
I think it depends on what type of person you are. I'm like an all-in person. I'm just a jump in. I don't want to progress. I don't want to start easy and just make my way up. I'm more of a give me something, and then if that's not good enough, I need to double that.
Or what'd you sign up for?
triple
What
that.
was your first race?
It was an Olympic.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So my first, and I literally breaststroked it, was an Olympic. And I remember Eric, my husband, telling me, like, maybe you should start off with a sprint. And I was like, no, I'm a marathoner. That's nothing. Well, I almost died doing the breaststroke for, 1,200 meters or whatever it is. And then when I finished that, I was completely hooked. That Holly race is a great race, probably not a good first time race unless you really like hills. But I crossed that finish line and I was like, yeah, I'm hooked. So then I went directly to a half Ironman after that, the next year. So
Wow.
yeah, and then the next year I went to the full, and then I just stayed at the full distance.
So within a matter of 2-3 years?
So I did an Olympic, the next year I did a half, the next year I did a full. So, but that's just me though. Some people like to test the waters, which is totally okay.
Yeah. I started with a super sprint. Then the year that we met each other racing, I did all sprints except the very end of the summer I did an Olympic. But I wanted to try and get my way up there. And I don't think I did a half until it was 2 or 3 years later.
I was gonna say, it was a while after.
Yeah, I think it was about 10 years before I did a full. I wanted to work my way into it.
But why do you think that is? Do you think it's because you don't like running?
A huge thing was
Yeah.
the running. Because I always said I was never going to do a marathon unless it was in an Ironman. And to be honest, I was like, I'm never going to do an Ironman, so I'm never going to do a marathon.
Yeah. You were stuck on that for a while.
Uh-huh.
Like you legitimately was like, I'm never gonna do a marathon.
Yeah.
Unless it's at the end of an Ironman.
You know what
Which is
made
funny.
me feel like I could do it was the year you told me, let's sign up and run 2,021 miles in 2021.
Yeah.
And then you and Eric stopped doing it.
I didn't stop. Did I stop?
Yeah, you both did.
Dang.
It was during COVID and we just,
Yep.
there were no races. You couldn't sign up. You really couldn't go to the gym or do anything.
there was
So
nothing.
I started really running that year and I was like, well, on the weekend, there's nothing else to do.
Right.
So I'd go out and run 10. I
Almost barefoot, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
she wears those weird little
I did.
thingy shoes where you've got like, I don't know.
Toe
Tell us about
shoes.
those. Toe shoes.
Toe shoes.
Yeah.
'Cause no one likes wearing socks.
So, how did you know how to bump up your distance? Like, did you have...
Because I'm OCD, so I was planning
That's
in
fair.
my mind, okay, once I can master the sprint and feel comfortable, I can slowly add on the mileage to get to an Olympic.
Okay.
And then I think the next year I just was racing a lot of Olympics.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, this half is gonna be a lot. And I think that's a huge thing for me is mentally, like, how much time are you gonna have to put into training?
Yeah, it's a lot of
That's
time.
a huge thing to commit to once I think you make the jump from Olympic to a half.
And I don't think a lot of people understand the time commitment going to a full Ironman. And I think that also discourages a lot of people. For me, I want to challenge myself nonstop. I knew as soon as I crossed the finish line at Caseville, which was my first half Ironman, I looked at my husband and I said, I have to do a full. And I did one the next year. And so it's just, you just get hooked on that idea at that point. Good. Are you ready for your second pie?
We got more pie.
We do have more pie.
Yes.
Yes. I don't know whose is whose, so I don't know where this one's coming from, but
I don't either. It's going to be interesting because I feel like once I taste the other one, I might be able to tell where.
What do you think was the first pie?
what do I think was
If you
my
had to
first?
guess, which one was the first pie?
I think it was
Oh.
yours.
Ooh, the first pie we ate?
Yeah.
I think it was yours, actually. I really do. Oh my god, wait, that one looks exactly the same. Is that the same pie? Ooh, see, look at this one already. Looks like, ooh, it looks like the these are the best little nuggets too.
Oh,
These are the best little nuggies. Okay, so I've already noticed these apples are sliced thinner, and it appears as if they have more layers than the other one.
they're definitely cut into chunks versus the other one was like
So
slices.
they were slices.
It looks
yeah.
like there's more of the sauce in.
This one is looking very saucy. I like that word, saucy. And a little bit more caramely color,
Ooh.
even though it doesn't have caramel in it.
The other one smelled more like a bakery.
This one smells like apple. Oh. Different.
I don't know.
These apples are crunchy.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like they're undercooked. But I kind of like that though. No soggy apples. This one is also not sweet.
Yeah, which is weird because I feel like there's more sauce in this one.
This one's definitely saucier. The crust is very similar to the first one.
I'm not getting like a ton of apple flavor.
I'm not getting a ton of like cinnamon. Or there's definitely not oats in this one. Oh, as I say that, there's a piece of oat right there. Right there. I feel like this one doesn't have any butter in it. Like there's nothing rich in this one.
Yeah.
Is this the vegan one? This is
Producer Lainie just made a face at you.
Oh, I probably wasn't supposed to know that one of them's vegan. You know what? This one makes me feel like I'm not indulging. Like I'm not eating something that's bad for me.
It's almost, I don't want to say basic apple pie.
This one's pretty basic. There's not extras in there. But look at those wonderful little gold.
Obviously, I'm not upset about it, but
Well, we finished our third pie. No,
second pie. We only
We're on,
have
we're on
two
the
pies.
we're on the third segment.
We're gonna talk about how to choose your first race.
Ooh, that's a great discussion, actually.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's so many factors that can go in, right? It's whether or not you want to go someplace, which costs money, and especially traveling with your bike, it's very expensive.
Yeah, let's talk about triathlons. You are not just like packing up a bathing suit and going to a swim meet.
No. But as far as picking a race, though, I mean, local? You stay local? I mean,
Your friends can come.
yup. They can cheer you on, which makes crowd support is huge. Having your family there is a really big deal. Do you want to go someplace you've never been before? Which is also fun, but
It can
expensive.
be scary too.
Yep, that's very true.
And training purposes, I like doing local races just because you can train in the area that you're gonna go do the thing.
Right. Yeah, and you don't have to worry about doing a race that's hot, and we live in Michigan.
Yeah.
So how do you prepare for that?
How do you prepare for a race that's cold?
Right, right. I mean, just things like that in general, which is just lovely. Course difficulty, that's also super subjective.
So how many races do you do where you're considering signing up for it and then you decide, oh, I probably should look at the map? Do you look at the map? I mean, I look at the map
Yeah.
before the day of a race, but
Really?
to me, it's never gone into account of, oh, I'm gonna do this. Like, I'll sign up for a race blind and be like, crap, there's a ton of hills on this.
Are you serious? Oh, that's funny.
Chattanooga, I had no idea. I was like, oh, I like Chattanooga.
I love that though. I love going into that because it doesn't matter because you're going to train for it.
Right.
So why does it matter what the course looks like?
Yeah, I
But
think
for a
you
first
mentioned
timer-
the course and the weather.
Yes.
And I was like, well, I like hot, sticky weather.
You do.
But you were like, and there's hills. And I'm like, okay.
We'll train
I
for hills.
paid for it, so now I
Right.
gotta train for it.
Right, exactly. Whereas I look at the opposite and I'm just like, I want a place that is going to be pretty. Even though I was not at all looking at the scenery while I was racing. But you have to remember, you got to stay a couple days before. Most of these races with hotels and places, you have to stay at least a day before and at least a day after.
If not more.
If not more. So you're paying for 4 days when you're only racing one. You have to get there the day before. So that's a big. So if money is, even if money isn't, like who wants to waste, not that it's wasting, I guess, but money on
Again, money, time, your life.
I think you just have to feel it too. As stupid as that might sound. I mean, find a place, find a race. If you want it to be in Michigan, great. Find something that you're going to enjoy going to. And then just sign up. I think that's really the most important part, is just to sign up and not to even think twice about it.
Yeah, do it and then commit. My first year, I was sponsored by Andy Brady. So I did all the try to finish races. I was kind of locked down and I could get into any of them for free. So I said, why not just do all of them?
Right.
So every single weekend, which not a good idea. I do not advise to race every single weekend. This was my first year doing triathlons and I thought I was invincible, and it's a terrible idea. You will get burnt out and you will not perform as well as you could. But I saw a lot of different places in, well, I guess the east side. Most of those races were on the east side.
Yep.
But that year I didn't really need to pick. I just did every single one that Try to Finish was offering, and then after that I stayed pretty local.
You did, yeah.
I like being close to home. I like traveling sometimes for races, but it's a huge commitment when you start going places with all of your stuff.
Yep. I'm more of I just want to get around and see some place that I hadn't been before. Although I did Louisville 3 times because I just loved that race so much and I loved the location. So don't be afraid to just do a race multiple times if you love it. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, because then that's kind of is what makes it fun.
I guess it also gives you a good reason to kind of see a place where you're going. That is, I'll say, as much as I hate running, that's one thing also that I love about running is you can sign up for a 5K anywhere and see the city.
Yeah.
Like when we went to Massachusetts.
Yep.
And Salem, they had a 6.66 Devil's Chase.
Devil's Chase, yeah.
And even though it was a bunch of Boston runners,
yeah, that was wild.
we got to see the whole city of Salem. I used to do that though whenever traveling on vacation with my family. I would just look and be like, oh, is there a race here? A lot of times it's a lot easier to do just a run because all you need are your running shoes.
Right. So how does experience play into choosing a distance or choosing a race, I guess, in general? I've known several people that have just their first triathlon was an Ironman.
And their last.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who are like, I just want to do an Ironman and then I'm going to be done.
Yeah. So I think experience-wise, you don't have to have any experience, really. I mean, I think in any race, in general, you don't have to have experience.
No.
Again, I'm going to go back to you have to want to do it at the end of the day.
I think you have to train a little, have some knowledge of what you're doing. I am someone, and you know this, that when I'm like, oh, I'm going to do a half Ironman, but that means I'm going to do a sprint, and that means I'm going to do an Olympic before race day to make sure everything's where it needs to be. But same as you, I know plenty of people who are like, hey, I'm going to do an Ironman this year, and I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Which is totally fine.
Which is absolutely okay. Especially if you know you only want to do one.
Stick to the basics and train and know that you can do the distance.
Training is huge. I mean, you obviously have to train, period. Otherwise, your life is just going to be miserable on that day.
You're going to hurt, or you're going to puke, or you're going to poop. Well, I guess this brings us to the end of our first episode.
Of Tries and Pies. Sweet beginnings, right? Because you have to begin. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And so now, I think our last thing that we need to do is decide which pie we liked.
All right.
So here's your pie.
Okay.
Just to hold them up.
Oh.
Give some love to the...
Give some love, woohoo! Ackett's.
Nantucket Baking Company.
Amy, what was your favorite pie? Drum roll.
Pie number 1.
Okay. Mom?
Mine was also number 1.
Number 1 is Amy's pie.
Yay!
Oh, congrats, Nantucket, on that one.
Yay, Nantucket!
This one's really good.
Yeah. They were both delicious. But yes, guys, get some pies.
And do
Apple
some
pies.
tries. Join us for episode 2, The Perfect Slice.
Ooh.
Balancing life and triathlon.
Ooh, that's gonna be a good one. That's gonna be a good one.
And what type of pie are we gonna try?
Ooh, cherry. Cherries scare me. They got a lot of fiber in cherries.
This could get
This
could get interesting.
could get interesting. So guess what? Stay salty.
And sweet.
Oh, now I got a cramp too.
I think I've only puked once from something you've told me to do.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You actually did though?
Yeah.
That's
Those track
amazing.
workouts.